Fierce ladies, welcome to the Moms in Real Estate podcast, where we unleash our unapologetic power to share the raw truth of our journeys. Brace yourself for a dose of empowerment, education, and encouragement like never before. I'm Kristen, a relentless entrepreneur obsessed with connecting and uplifting fellow boss babes. In this podcast, we're all about getting down to business, conquering motherhood, nurturing relationships, and so much more. Get ready to dive into the nitty-gritty, embrace the hustle, and unravel the secrets of success in the world of real estate. We're here to ignite your fire, equip you with the knowledge, and unleash your limitless potential. Tune in as we redefine what it means to be a true boss babe. Hey, Jessica.
Hey.
I am so excited to have you on today. I was telling you last week, I feel like we met forever ago, and then all of a sudden, finally, your podcast is here. So I'm so excited to dive in with you. Why don't we get started and you just tell us a little bit about your journey in real estate?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am Jessica. I live on Florida's Forgotten Coast, as we call it. I started my real estate career about 3 years ago. It was definitely a slow start. I just recently started really diving into it, and I started at a new brokerage and getting into beach properties and just kind of found my passion in that. But from the beginning, I actually owned a boutique. So I was living in the boutique world. I've owned my own small business for 9 years. Still love that, have that going on. But it was just people were coming in, and I was like, I mean, if I can sell a dress, I can sell a house.
Heck yeah.
So I just decided that that was always something I wanted to do, but I never made the time for it. I would sign up for the online course and then I just would procrastinate. And finally, when COVID hit, I had the time.
I love
So
that.
I did a live course, passed my exam, and then tried to dive into it then. But I did have a 4-year-old, and so that was a little hard trying to figure out all of that and with a small business, but I ended up just getting the motivation and finding the right time. So,
Yeah, I think that that's great. So I want to talk about, running a business with kids is hard. Running two businesses with kids can be extra hard. So why don't we talk about like what made you decide to, I know you said like, okay, if I can sell dresses, I can sell a house. But how do you manage all of the things that you're doing?
it's really hard. And I think that's what took me the longest to dive full in with real estate because I have a 4-year old. I'm still new into my marriage, and it just finding the time for me was probably the hardest part. But once I figured out that it was something I wanted to do for myself and that that was important, um, and just dedicated time just for myself, I started getting the ball rolling a little bit more.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about like what does your day look like? Like what does a typical day look like for you specifically when it comes to running multiple businesses and like getting lunches ready or whatever it is that your day looks like?
Yes, well, a good day looks like waking up. I have a 1-year-old now, so basically any morning I have to be somewhere at a certain time. He's asleep. If I don't have to rush, he's wide awake at 6 a.m. So, but I just get him ready, wake up Davis, which is my 5-year-old, and take them to either my grandmother, who is great and watches them for me sometimes, or school, whatever activity has going on. And then I try to grab a coffee in the morning to get me going, and then I just go into the office, get started. Some days I am in my boutique, which is my fun day. And I'm also just networking in there, networking at the coffee shop. If the boys have practice, which they usually do after work, I just have to make those times where I network and get my, prospecting in, because
Yeah, well, let's talk about
definitely
that specifically.
24/7.
Yeah, so when you have so much going on, you have to figure out how to prospect in these different areas. So like, how do you prospect in your boutique? Is it just you letting everybody know like, hey, I own this boutique and I also sell beachfront properties, or like, how do you go about that?
Yeah, well, a lot of people in the summertime that come down, it's big families and they're renting. So I'm always like, oh, where are you from? Where are you vacationing? Are you vacationing? Are you from here? And, get this conversation going that way. But, and then they're like, oh, we're renting a house on St. George Island. And I'll say, oh, I own the store, but I also do real estate. And, if you're ever looking for anything, we have income producing property is like the main goal for people buying beachfront property down here, because they want to own a home, they want to rent it out, and then they want like the gross rental income for the numbers to make sense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I've been learning. And then, once they come in, I'm like, you could own a house and rent it at the same time.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And I think that's such a great value add.
And a lot of moms come in my store too. So, and they're always like, how do you do it all? Like, what do you mean you sell real estate and you're in the store and you were just telling me about your kids? And so, we kind of I really like to get to know people. And then I kind of just let the prospecting go from there.
Well, I think that's what, we as women are so naturally good at, is just being good listeners. And when you're a good listener, so much opportunity just comes out of people's mouths, because you are genuinely interested in them. And I think that that's such a great way to build deep connections too, and to build multiple businesses, which it's doing for you, which is great. So let's talk about what about some of the struggles that you've had in these 3 years? What would say, you said a slow start. Tell us about that.
So when I first started, like I said, it was COVID and I had a boutique. We couldn't open for months. So that was like a setback for us. Once we did reopen and Florida was, the state was open, we ended up having our best year at our store. And, we were just really blessed with that. But I also, I had a miscarriage during that time. And it was just really hard for me to find focus on anything, after that. And I just feel like people, they just don't, like, when you say, oh, I had a miscarriage, and even before I experienced it myself, like, they don't understand, like, the hormones that come after that. It's like, oh, it's been 2 weeks. Like, why aren't you feeling better? Or I just felt like this weight, and it wasn't like anybody was really pushing me to go back to work or pushing me to, like, what are you doing with real estate? Like, why haven't you been showing up on social media? Like, where are you at? And I just was in a place where the motivation was gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for women, and I was like, why did this happen? Like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And you just feel like a failure in ways. So you're like, if I can't do this, then, why am I trying to start a new career? Like, if I can't get myself under control and motivated, like, if I can't move on, how am I supposed to, be in front of people
Mm-hmm.
and try to start a conversation with anyone when, you're sad? So I finally like pushed through from that, and I just decided to like reach out to people, and I was looking it up on the internet, like celebrities who had miscarriages. And I know that just sounds crazy, but you want to like feel, you want to know that it had like it's happened to other people and like they made it through. And so, and like I said, I was just kind of like wondering like why did this happen to me? And then recently, it's been a few months now, and when we had first talked about this podcast, this was like important for me and that I wanted to share, was that my best friend and business partner, she went through the same thing. And I, have healed from it and moved on, and I was in a place where I could help her.
Mm-hmm.
Like get through it and explain to her like no one else feels the way that you do about this, and that's okay. And it's not gonna be okay tomorrow, it's not gonna be okay in a month. Like you're always gonna think about how the kid would be, or like where this would be, but it will happen and you will heal. And it was just so healing for me as well to be able to help her get through that.
Hi, it's Barber with your tax coach, and we love helping entrepreneurs save money on their taxes. Here's a quick tax tip. Leverage is one of my favorite words to use when talking about real estate. Did you know that when you pull money out of a property, that loan is tax-free income to you, so you don't have to pay any taxes on it? For more info, follow us on Instagram at Your Tax Coach or go to our website, yourtaxcoach.com.
If that makes sense.
That makes a ton of sense. So
that was a really, yeah. And I mean, and it wasn't like a happy thing for me, but just knowing like I could be there for her in ways that, I was just searching for. But that was a really slowing point for me, getting it all started. And then I got pregnant again. My son just turned 1. So I was like 3 months out, and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get started. I am going to push through. And just started, I changed brokerages. I was like, I need floor days. I want to be there. So when the time came, I just got the ball rolling and got started. But it's hard. It's definitely like not easy once you go through all those like hormonal changes, and then you're pregnant again, and a newborn is just, it's a process.
Yeah. So I know that there's people probably listening that, have had miscarriages and they feel alone. And I feel like, as you said, it sounds silly to go and Google celebrities that have had miscarriages, but yet you wanted to be able to connect with somebody. But there are so many people. If you just actually talk about it, I'm sure you will have I'm sure you already have had this happen. Just so many people that you're like, oh my gosh, I never knew that happened to you. What would you say would be if somebody, has a miscarriage or had a miscarriage and they're feeling like that? Like, what would be your biggest piece of advice to them?
To just talk about it. I think that some women, feel shame for it, and that's not it. It's a scientific thing that happens in your body. Like, it's nothing that you did, and you try to go back and think, well, I did this, or I worked out, or I went on vacation and flew in an airplane, and you just try to, figure out why it happened. And I think the big thing was just talking about it. And a lot of women don't do that. If you do know someone, and even on social media, like there was one girl that I was following, and like she had posted her whole journey about it, and then, trying to get pregnant again, and just seeing her post every day. And I would even like message her on Instagram or like her things, and it's just, I think just talking about it. And that's with anything. Like having a new baby, not feeling like getting dressed every day, like just knowing that other women are feeling the same way you are. I mean, people think that we just wake up after having a baby and are like, okay, let's go. Like, and, for some of us that is the case, but for some of us it's not.
What I've found doing this podcast for, over 6 years now is a lot of people want to come onto the podcast and share their journey and their story, specifically about hardships like having a miscarriage, We've had people who've, been in abusive relationships, and people, when they are able to share their story and help other people reach out to them and tell them how they inspired them, that is therapeutic for them. And I do feel like, and I feel like it's not as bad anymore, but I feel like in the past, a lot of people want to just suppress it and not talk about it and sweep it under the rug. But you're right. I think that talking about it and finding other people to talk about it with is probably the best thing that you can do.
Right. And I think if you're feeling feeling some way about it, it's been over a year for me, but I still like to let people know if someone's going through it, hey, I've been there, I've been through that. If you ever want to talk about it or anything, let me know. And I think there also is, your husband is there for you, and they understand, they try to understand where you're coming from, but it's a loss for us that is just unexplainable. And all those hormones were starting in your body and getting you prepared and ready, and then one day it's all gone. So I think too, just letting women know, take it easy on them as well. They really don't understand completely what's going on.
Yeah, I totally think that is really good advice that you're giving. Okay, so I have a question for you when it comes to, some of the struggles that you've had when it comes to your business. You mentioned time management, and you mentioned having, not having the ability to close the door. You're on 24/7 and you have to show up for people all the time. So tell us a little bit about those things.
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the hardest things for me still. I try to go, when I'm at the office, I'm at the office. I'm trying to bang out everything I need to get done that day. I know when 5 o'clock rolls around, or 4:30, because I usually have to leave early because someone has practice or isn't feeling well. But once, and then you get in the car and you're on the phone the whole way to pick up your kids, just trying to get it all finished before you get home, because, you have to go by the grocery store and cook dinner and, be present when you get home. And then, you just sit down to eat and your phone rings. And it's the buyer and the offer that you've been waiting on all day. But your husband's looking at you, your kids are looking at you, and, your son just said the blessing and your phone's going off. And I answer the phone, I'll be right back. And just having to run out the door, I explain to my kids, every opportunity, mom has in her business is a blessing. And, sometimes I know I'm busy, and I apologize for that, and I try to be present as much as I can. But if something important is going on mommy's phone and she has to walk away, you have to give me some grace too, and understand I'll be right back. And I'm not doing it on purpose.
So how important do you feel that it is to have your family, and specifically more your spouse, on board with what you're doing when you're a real estate agent?
It's so important. I think it just, because when we're not on the same page about it, I can just see it in his eyes, are you really going to take that call right now? Or if I'm just looking on my phone, or we're riding by a property and I'm on my phone trying to pull it up because I'm so-and-so would really love that. And he's really? We're going out to dinner.
Yeah.
So I just, we've had conversations where I've just told him, this is where I'm at in real estate right now, and I have to take every opportunity I can get. It has gotten better now that I've kind of realized I can't be on 24/7, and I have had, opportunities now where I don't have to be. I'm still eager, and I definitely don't turn down calls a lot, but I have gotten to a better place with myself where I will, put my phone away at dinner.
Good for you.
Okay, it's 30 minutes, and then I can look at it again.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we think we have to respond so quick to people when really just Ask yourself when the phone rings, can this wait until I'm done with dinner? And 99% of the time it's going to be, yeah, I can wait. But I think that it's just,
Right.
we have been programmed to think that
it's just
the
realizing
instant.
that, like, especially when you're starting out, like, you think every time your phone rings, like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out, when really you're not. And all you have to do, and now my clients that I get, I'm like, listen, I have a 1-year-old. I have, my kids just, baseball season was crazy. My stepson, he plays in another city. So every night of the week, I'm at the ball field, like, trying to take calls and watch the game. But I'm just, during that time, I'm like, I'm just letting you know I have a ball game tonight. Like, it's going to be around 8:30 before I respond to anything.
Yeah, set those expectations.
And just doing that and setting the boundaries, once you start setting the boundaries for yourself and realizing, like, it pays off so much more.
Yeah, it does. And they're not going to care. If you have to go to baseball and they have to wait, they're going to be like, totally fine.
Right. And you just learn to, I love just making connections with my clients too. Like, I just had dinner last night, me and my husband did, with a client, and that I'd sold my first beach house to, which so they're really special to me, and we just had the best time at dinner and talking about my kids and everything. And I just think, like, being open with your clients and just letting them know, like, hey, I'm a mom, I have 2 businesses, but I'm here for you. Yeah. And I'm going to do my best to, find you the property you want. But if you call me around, 6 to 8:30, I might be unavailable because, I have to have dinner with my kids. I've got to cook. I've got to do the laundry. You have to make time for it. So,
well, you think
it's important. And just finding your own balance.
Yeah. And you think about just anybody that you hire. Like, even I'm thinking about when I just redid my backyard, right? Like, the biggest complaint people have is the lack of communication. If they would have just told me XYZ, I would have been totally fine with it. But because they didn't, I got all worked up about something. So I think that you explaining as much as you can is just such a great expectation in the beginning.
100%.
Yes.
Exactly. Where before it's like, I'm available 24/7. Call me anytime. And then now it's like, well, okay, this is the schedule. If something big is going on, you make time and place for that. But if it's just, a text or your phone ringing, it's okay to not answer the phone.
Okay, so I have 2 more questions for you before we wrap up this podcast. And my first one is,
okay,
what systems have been, like, so important in your business to help you with managing all the things you have going on?
Well, my 3 planners, probably. So I have to write everything in a planner, and then I put everything in my calendar in my phone, and then I have a big desk planner. Mm-hmm. So that's just kind of how I do everything. I have to write it all out. I have to see it all, and then I put it in my phone just to remind me of things. I don't really have we have a good, like, CRM system at our office that kind of keeps everything in line for me, and I just try to stay up to date with that as much as I can. But for me, it's writing everything out and seeing it multiple times a day.
I'm glad I'm not alone, because I have this, like, planner problem. This is every year. So I have to have a physical calendar that's super cute. Every year I go through at least 3 of them because I get over them.
Every year.
I get over them. I want the ones with stickers. I never use the stickers. But then...
No, I start out with the stickers and the pins, and I have to, like... I'm like, the more creative and pretty this is, the better I'm going to get this done.
Going to get this shit done. Then the Google Calendar, have to have everything in there. But then there's multiple Google Calendars. Then there's a wall calendar. And I'm like, you know what? We got to have all of them. You can't miss them. We've got people that, like...
You got to have them all.
I know. It's so true. I love that. I just think that the more women that tell me that they have that many calendars, I just crack up. I'm like, I am not alone in this psycho calendar situation.
Obviously, I need a better system. So shoot me all those, because
Hey, if it works.
The more calendars, the better for me.
Me too. Well, I mean, each one serves its purpose, right? I mean, my Google Calendar is like, what am I doing today? Whereas, if I'm looking at my wall family calendar, I've got to put all my sports stuff and my family, my date night and all that stuff on there so that everyone can visually see it every single day while they're eating breakfast. So, okay, we're going to wrap it up. We're going to wrap it up with a fun question. So if you could have any celebrity as your real estate partner or teammate, who would it be and why?
Okay, so I have to say the Oppenheim twins from Selling Sunset. I mean, they just have the biggest self-esteem I've ever seen. And if they can manage all those women, and some episodes they don't do it very well, but if they can do all those offices and manage all those women and could give me access to just any of their, fashion and outfits, I think I could definitely sell whatever I wanted to.
I was not expecting that answer at all. And I don't know why I don't know why I didn't see that coming. Because I do feel like a lot of people would answer that.
I know, it's horrible. I binge watch it. I know it's bad, but
I would personally never want them as my teammates.
Have it going on.
Yeah. Oh, well, that is such a fun answer. I've had so much fun having you on. Thank you so much for being a guest on our podcast.
Oh, thank you. I love what you're doing, and it's so amazing, just the connection and all the events you guys do. I'm hoping to get to them soon. So I really appreciate it and letting me share my story.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I hope to see you at an event for sure. Bye.
Hi, it's Barbara with your tax coach, and we love helping entrepreneurs save money on their taxes. Here's a quick tax tip. Did you know that if you make more than $150,000 per year, if you have losses on your real estate properties, they can actually be limited, or you might not be able to take any of them on your tax returns, unless you can qualify as a real estate professional, also known as rep status. If your accountant hasn't talked to you about rep status, please give us a follow at Your Tax Coach. For more info, follow us on Instagram at Your Tax Coach or go to our website, yourtaxcoach.com.